Hey everyone, Noah Barfield here, and welcome to Writer's Corner. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Recently, I've been redoing some of my older writing videos, and I just decided to start at the very beginning. So, last week I covered subplots, which means that this week, it's all about how you decide who you want to listen to on your writing journey. Now, some of you might be thinking, why do we need a video on this? Why is this even important? Well, whenever you're a writer, sometimes it can be a difficult decision to make, especially if you're a younger writer or just getting into it for the first time. Whenever you're trying to decide who you actually want to pay attention to with their tips and advice, and who is worth your time, effort, and energy. Because depending on who you decide to listen to, they can either encourage and inspire you to continue writing for the rest of your life, yay! Or their content and formatting can just be so atrocious or mesh with you in such a horrendous fashion that you don't want to write ever again, because if you can't understand the tips that people are giving you, then what's the point? So it can kind of be an important decision to make. Also, there's just a lot of different information out there because, the internet, and it's just a lot to sift through. But it's great. It's great we have just a vast quantity of information that we can compile for our own needs. But because of the vast quantity of it, it can sometimes conflict. For instance, if you have a writing blog that's been giving you wonderful tips and advice for years, but recently what they're saying just isn't resonating with you, so you've turned to some other writer who has helped you with writer's block and given you lots of great tips and advice, but most of what they say directly flies in the face of this writing blog that you have trusted for years. What do you do? How do you resolve this conflict? Who do you listen to? Well, an important thing to remember is that everyone who's giving you information should roughly be saying the same thing. For instance, if you're trying to find out how you can write realistic dialogue and you're looking for tips and advice on it, there's only a few real ways to write realistic dialogue, so people should roughly be giving you the same information, just with minor variances in formats. For instance, whenever you're writing, you're all delivering the same content, words, just formatted for different audiences. A romance author is still giving people words, just keyed to an audience who wants romance. Maybe someone who's telling you how to do realistic dialogue is doing it with nerd jokes and quirky humor, but someone else might be doing it in a quick, efficient manner for people on the go. They should still be roughly giving you the same information. But Noah, I get that. I get they're giving me the same information, and I get this can be an important decision, but you still haven't told me how I can possibly decide if two people I trust are in conflict, or if there are two sources that I don't know about, or how do I even decide who to listen to in the very beginning? Well, there are actually a few ways to vet your sources, whether they're conflicting or whether you're getting into it for the first time. You're like, all right, I want to write, who do I listen to? There are actually a few ways that you can vet and make sure that you're listening to the right people. So the first thing that you want to do is check their history. And I don't mean go all stealth on them and check their browsing history. That's probably not a good idea, but I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't do it. That's just kind of common sense. You want to check their history and their vocation. So if you have someone who has been in nuclear physics for 30 years and a master of their craft, that's great. They probably have a lot of helpful information on nuclear physics. But how long have they been teaching? 3 months? Maybe listen to someone else. Same thing for writing. If you have an author who has been, well, an author for years, their entire life, but they've never helped anyone with their writing or with their book or planning or anything, then you might want to listen to someone else. Now, my second tip is to triple check your sources. Some people say double check, I say triple check. Maybe even quadruple check if you're feeling adventurous. For instance, if you have two conflicting sources, see which one says roughly the same information as 3 other people. And if this other person is saying something radically different, then they either know something different than everyone else and maybe you should really listen to them, or they're dead wrong. It's always important to triple check your sources and see what other people are saying on the subject and to get a general consensus. Now, my third and most important tip on how you vet all of your sources is what works for you. Does what they're saying not only mesh well with you and you're like, yeah, I see what they're coming from and these tips could actually help me, but is the way in they're delivering it actually helpful to you? And that's what you really have to decide. You have to do what works for you. If what they're telling you is helpful, but you just can't stand how they're telling it to you, then you might not want to listen to them, because then you'll start to associate this negative feeling of aggravation and annoyance with writing and with writing tips, and that's just not good for a prolonged career in writing and authorship. So you really have to decide, just does this mesh well with me? Does this work well with what I'm looking for out of writing tips or advice? And this is especially important to remember whenever you have conflicting sources, because you just have to decide, is this working well for me at this moment? Because you'll change as a writer, and people will change as givers of advice, but does it work well for you at that moment? Eventually, you might come back and this other writing blog is helpful again, and now you have 16 posts to catch up on. But for the time, they might not be clicking with you, and that could be because of you or them, a combination of both. But it's okay. Find people that you actually trust and sources that you trust. Work on that first. And then, whenever you need some help, just go with whatever your mood is. You have to be in tune with what you need as a writer, and that just comes with time and experience. Ultimately, the most important person that you can listen to is yourself. You have to listen to yourself whenever you're considering all of these things. Above all other people, go with what you think would be best. If this person is delivering something in a way that just makes you laugh and that actually makes you pay attention, then you might want to go with them. Triple check them, make sure that what they're saying checks out, but then listen to them. But if they stop being helpful, then you can always go on to someone else. The beauty of having so much information, because, the internet, is that there's a lot of information. There's a lot of different people giving advice and tips out there because they think they know things, so maybe check them out, see if they actually do know things. However, on a final note, I must say that even though it's important to know when to listen to people, it's also important to know when not to listen to people. Overall, I only listen to people whenever I can't figure it out on my own. If I don't, then I look for other sources. And I triple check to make sure, and I have a few tabs open, and then I have a few more tabs open, and then my computer screen is just filled with tabs and different pages, just to make sure that they know what they're talking about, because I need to make sure that they know what they're talking about so that I'll know what I'm writing about. And this is an important thing to remember. Yes, listening to people can be helpful, but just as helpful can be not listening to people. You don't always need to go to someone else for writing tips and information, because sometimes you can just write your way through your problems, and then you can always look back on it and see, oh, maybe I do need a little tips and advice on this. But the important thing is you got past the problem on your own, and that builds your self-reliance and independence as an author. Now, here's the part where I brag about my book. My novel, Legendland, is available at a plethora of places. It's available online on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com, and it's also available on my website, www.arc-storm.com. Now, you can not only purchase Legendland on my website, but I'll also sign it for you, because I like whenever people buy things from me directly. And if you have any questions, hey, there's also a contact form on there where you can ask me anything to your heart's desire, as long as it relates to writing, because I will incinerate anything else, because yes. Also, if you don't feel like going to my website for some strange reason because you're an alien robot or something, then you can also just leave a comment below, or I'm also pretty active on Facebook and Twitter, so you can hit me up on there. I have official pages for me, yay! Don't forget to subscribe because you want to keep up to date with all of this, and just thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and that you continue to enjoy.